There are 298 prisoners on death row in the state of Florida. This is part 19 of the series. Paul Brown, 56 years old, 27 years on death row. On November 5, 1992, Paul Anthony Brown was found guilty of murdering Roger Hensley and received a death sentence. In October 1992, Brown relocated from Tennessee to Daytona Beach. He met Scott Jason McGuire, and the two of them engaged in drug and alcohol abuse together for a number of weeks. Brown made the decision to return to Tennessee, but he had no way of getting there since McGuire's car was immobilized. On November 5, 1992, Brown and McGuire encountered the victim, Roger Hensley, outside a bar. To enjoy a beer and smoke some Mary Jane, the three men went back to Hensley's apartment. McGuire said in court that Brown informed him he planned to shoot Hensley and seize his car. Brown got 2 knives from the kitchen and gestured to McGuire that he would slit Hensley's throat because McGuire was worried about the loud noise a gunshot would make. According to reports, McGuire dropped the knife and objected to his involvement in the killing. Brown then said that he would complete the task personally, but he also gave McGuire the task of closing the door so that Hensley could not leave. Brown went into the room and started stabbing Hensley. McGuire entered the room after hearing Hensley yell "no" and discovered him covered in blood and struggling for breath. The two men escaped to Tennessee after Brown discovered the car keys to Hensley's vehicle. The FBI detained Brown on November 8, 1992 for his involvement in a bank heist in Tennessee. When he was interrogated, he admitted to taking part in the murder of a guy from Florida, but claimed that McGuire was the one who cut off Hensley's throat. Jonathan Lawrence, 48 years old, 23 years on death row. Jonathan Huey Lawrence was found guilty and given the death penalty on March 24, 2000 for killing Jennifer Robinson, conspiring to kill her, giving alcohol to a juvenile, and abusing a corpse. Robinson, then 18 years old, was picked up by Lawrence and his friend Jeremiah Martell Rogers from her mother's house on May 7, 1998. The three went drinking in a remote part of the woods once they had driven there. While under the effect of the alcoholic beverages offered by the two guys, Robinson had intercourse with Lawrence and then with Rogers. She was then shot in the back of the head with a handgun by Rogers. Robinson died a short while later. After loading her body into Lawrence's truck, Rogers and Lawrence continued into the woods. Lawrence stopped in a position where he could score Robinson's calf and cut out her muscle. With the Polaroid camera, Rogers captured Lawrence's process as they alternately posed with Robinson's body. They buried her after that. The disappearance of Robinson was linked to Lawrence and Rogers. When an investigator approached the men, they denied ever knowing her. Lawrence offered the investigator permission to search his truck and trailer. A handgun, frightening notes regarding the mutilation, photographs of Robinson's body taken during the murder, and other ancillary items were found by the investigator. The detective immediately detained Lawrence, and he admitted to being involved and showed them where Robinson's body was. Lawrence was charged on June 4, 1998, and pleaded guilty to 4 counts: conspiracy to commit first-degree murder on count 1, providing alcohol to a youngster on count 2, first-degree premeditated murder on count 3, and mistreatment of a corpse on count 4. On March 27, 2000, Lawrence submitted a direct appeal. Norman Grimm, 63 years old, 23 years on death row. A Santa Rosa County Sheriff's deputy responded to a disturbance complaint at Cynthia Campbell's home on July 27, 1998 at around 5 a.m. When the deputy went to the disturbance Campbell had reported behind her house, he discovered a smashed window and a chrome lug nut in the underbrush. Before Deputy Lynch left, Campbell's next-door neighbor, Norman Grimm, extended an invitation to her for coffee. Later that morning, 2 employees from Campbell's law firm visited her home and discovered her car in the driveway, but no trace of Campbell inside. Deputies were dispatched from the sheriff's office and arrived on the site. They observed reddish-brown stains on Grimm's shoulder and cut-off blue jean shorts when they interrogated him about Campbell's disappearance. Grimm clarified that the stains were caused by his car's primer paint. On the afternoon of July 27, 1998, 2 fishermen hooked a body wrapped in a sheet, a shower curtain, and masking tape. This body was ultimately identified as Campbell's. With the blunt force damage of a hammer, Campbell's body had deep abrasions and contusions around her shoulders, eyes, forehead, chin, and lips. In addition to the blunt force injuries, her body contained 11 knife wounds to the chest, which contributed to her demise. A former employee of Grimm's saw him earlier that day sitting in his parked car on the Pensacola Bay Bridge with the trunk and doors open. Grimm was also captured on surveillance camera film shortly after being spotted parked on the bridge, entering a convenience store near the bridge's base. Grimm's home also contained additional forensic evidence, including 2 damp, bloody mops on the kitchen, small areas of blood on the floor and cabinets, 2 bloody fingerprints, a stripped pillowcase with blood on it in the kitchen trash, blood spots in the dining room, a pair of blue jean shorts with bloodstains in the living room, bloody athletic shoes, and rope that matched the rope used on Campbell's body. Additional forensic evidence was discovered on Grimm's back porch, including a cooler, a green carpet that matched the carpet used to wrap Campbell's body, and a pair of glasses with Campbell's prescription. A steak knife, a piece of cloth splattered with blood, a pair of men's underwear, a tampon, masking tape, and a blood-stained hammer were all found inside the cooler. Campbell's distinctive genetic markers were present in all forensic evidence. Fred Anderson, 55 years old, 22 years on death row. When he was robbing the United Southern Bank in Mount Dora, Florida, Fred Anderson killed a bank teller and was found guilty and given the death penalty. Anderson was under community control for grand theft prior to the robbery of the United Southern Bank and the murder of Heather Young. Anderson was required to pay $4,000 in restitution as a condition of his community control, but as of March 1999, he had only paid $100. He made the decision to rob the United Southern Bank in order to obtain the funds necessary to pay his restitution so that he could avoid spending a year in a probation facility for breaking the terms of his community control. Anderson took a loaded pistol from one of his neighbors on March 18, 1999. He went to the bank the following day to gather the data required to carefully organize the robbery. He met with the bank manager while posing as a student doing research for a report on finance. He paid close attention to the location of the bank's surveillance camera. On March 20, 1999, Anderson visited the United Southern Bank again and brought some donuts and orange juice as a thank you gift for the bank's assistance with his finance paper. Since the bank was set to close at noon, there were only 2 staff present, Heather Young and Marisha Scott. Anderson informed Young and Scott that he was going outside to his car to get his business cards when there were no other customers around. The women were ordered into the vault when Anderson reappeared with 2 loaded weapons. Anderson ordered them to stuff money into a garbage can liner. Before starting to fire, he asked the women who wanted to die first. Sherry Howard entered the bank with her kids at the time of the crime. She heard gunfire and she also saw Anderson in the vault. In a hurry, Howard left the bank and dialed the police. The first policeman to arrive on the scene saw Anderson tearing a VCR containing security footage from the bank's wall. Anderson obeyed the officer's request to drop the stuff and did as instructed. Paramedics entered to provide help to the victims once Anderson was taken into custody and the bank was secured. While being transported to the hospital, Heather Young passed away. Marisha Scott lived but was left crippled. Jeffrey Hutchinson, 61 years old, 22 years on death row. On the evening of September 11, 1998, Jeffrey Hutchinson and Renee Flaherty, his live-in girlfriend, got into a fight. After the argument, Hutchinson departed and headed to a pub after loading some of his clothing and weapons into his truck. "Renee is pissed at me," Hutchinson said to the bartender, who knew both Hutchinson and Flaherty. After downing some beer, Hutchinson turned around and walked away, mumbling to himself. As he exited the bar, he drove erratically, according to witnesses. A 911 call came in from Hutchinson's house around 40 minutes after he left the bar. In the call, the caller said, "I just shot my family," and "there were some guys here." friends recognized Hutchinson's voice as the caller. Within 10 minutes of the call, deputies arrived and saw him lying on the ground in the garage. The bodies of Renee Flaherty, Logan Flaherty, who was just 4 years old, and Amanda Flaherty, who was 7 years old, were discovered by deputies in the master bedroom. Each had received a single shotgun blast to the skull. 9-year-old Jeffrey Flaherty was discovered shot twice, once in the head and once in the chest in the living room. Hutchinson had Jeffrey's body tissue on his scalp and gunshot residue on his hands. He claimed that 2 males entered the home and that he engaged them in combat. After shooting Renee and the kids, they ran away. Hutchinson was evaluated both on the spot and in custody and was found to be unharmed. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.